Hi, this is Alessio, the host of Metal Gear Mondays, coming at you before the episode to let you know that this is a remaster of our very first episode, but also simultaneously, this is our 91st episode. So please enjoy the small time travel device that we're going to provide you with, and we'll try to be pretty transparent throughout the episode as to kind of where everything falls in, but just know that we've also retained the original episodes in your feed, and they should be in proper order. So this is our remaster of our first season of us recovering Metal Gear Solid 1. If you've tried listening to the show and getting into it early on and for whatever reason it didn't really stick, we'd love it if you'd give it another shot. And if you're a longtime listener, please enjoy our second take on Metal Gear Solid. Yeah, thanks you guys, and enjoy the episode. Ladies, gentlemen, boys, and girls, welcome to the first, or 91st, episode of Metal Gear Mondays, a Games Club comedy podcast covering all things Metal Gear from top to bottom, left to right, inside and out. As always, and for the very first time, I'm your host, Alessio Summerfield, and this week, we're doing something special. I know that you guys heard the pre-roll at the beginning of the episode, but just kind of wanted to set the scene, set the stage. This is our remaster, our redux, our recreation, our reimagining, and our redo. Please let me redo the test. This is our redo, our take-home quiz version of the final exam that we were sick for, of the first season of our show, covering the original Metal Gear Solid. It's going to feature sort of our more updated format, our fancy, better equipment, and better vocal cords, and all that jazz. Yeah, we want to use this as a example of the quality that the show will come to take, and give you guys a little taste of the future today in your podcast caster of choice. You'll see now there will be MGM Remaster number 1 and MGM Classic number 1. So if you, for whatever reason, would like to go back in time, as of time of recording, roughly almost 3 years into the past, to listen to a time capsule of the original version of this show, feel free. And kind of feel free to chart the journey with us. After this remaster season, we are going to drop you back off in the past in order to catch up with us. So Metal Gear Solid 2 will kind of revert back to the original recordings, though one day we hope to remaster those as well. But yeah, I'm not going to take too much time setting that scene for everyone who might currently be a longtime listener of the show, but I just wanted to set that context for new people. I'm joined by some very special fellas that are going to be here every step of the way for what you're going to be listening to. This week, I'm joined by Sam Wright.
Hi, I'm Sam Wright. I'm the pretty one.
But he's sick all the time for some reason. It's weird.
Well, I had to cough that entire time, but I didn't want to interrupt your lovely introduction, and then I realized that me doing a real sick, nasty cough is probably the best way to get them real used to who I am as a person.
Very nice. Very nice.
There it goes.
We're also joined by Isaac Lim.
Hey, guys. Can you tell I'm nervous? Hey. Hello.
What are you nervous for?
This is great.
It's the first
I haven't seen
podcast.
Isaac this anxious in a while.
First episode,
Isaac's
guys.
first podcast, guys.
This is our first episode. I'm nervous.
You got butterflies. The first butterflies. This week we're also joined by James Reichmuth.
Mr. Mom Spaghetti himself, Jimmy Stinger here.
We remastered an entire person.
Man, those devs, they overhauled it.
Did a great job.
Wild.
New and improved.
Right out the gate.
Oh.
Dusting off a classic.
2019 James
Oh
in
my
the building.
God. So James's legal first name is Dustin.
Ah, fuck.
Can it be Dustin?
Spoiler
Dustin,
alert.
Comma, quote, off a classic.
Oh,
quote,
I like
right,
that. Dustin off a classic.
I like
That'd be
it.
my wrestler name.
Yes.
Wow, I've got a bright career ahead of me. I'm excited about that.
First name Dustin, last name Off a Classic.
Yeah.
Excuse me, would Mr. Off a Classic please
to the
report
ring,
to the
please?
office? His parents are here to pick him up. Very nice. So before we get into what this show is, what it exists for, why you should listen, I do want to hear a little bit about you guys' experiences with Metal Gear. So just sort of the over under too long did not read. This show is a borderline obsessive compulsive discussion that never ends of all things that have Metal Gear's branding stamped on it. As of time of recording, we've achieved like over 140 hours of Metal Gear discussion, so hopefully you were looking for 140 hours of Metal Gear discussion.
Yeah, hope you're ready to sit.
If you weren't, guess what? It's still here anyway.
Yeah,
so
you can't get rid of it.
Sit on that for a little bit.
It's yours and it's ours.
Marie Kondo's not going to come in here and show you how to fold these fucking podcasts.
Yum.
But
does the podcast bring you joy? I hope so.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Correct. I hope
because we're already in the garbage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Take me out back.
Coming at you
what
live
I mean?
from the dumpster in your alley. This is Metal Gear Mondays. But yeah, I just want to hear a little bit about like kind of how you guys got to because again, we have to simultaneously talk to new listeners.
Yeah.
And then remind the old listeners, like Metal Gear Solid did for us, remind the old listeners why they fell in love with us in the first place.
Yeah, I am somehow playing these games in chronological order, not of when they were released or when they were made, but just somehow
you're right.
in the way the timeline shakes out.
Yeah, the timeline of the games.
I did 3 and
That's
then Peace Walker and then
fucking
5 and then I did 1.
Yeah.
Skipped Metal Gear and Metal Gear 2.
Yeah, but for the most part.
Chronological order. I'm a psychopath. Hello.
No, it's great. That's actually pretty cool.
Doing it right.
Yeah.
You're going to have a weird...
I've got a weird perspective.
It's a really weird experience.
I feel very strongly about certain people that probably doesn't make sense to...
Yeah, we're not sure. I'm not sure why I care about you, but
Got a lot
I
of
really do
feelings.
care about you.
Very nice. James, did you... So we do have 2... For Isaac, this is going to be weird. So at the time of the original recording of the first episode of the show, Isaac had never touched a Metal Gear.
Yeah.
And has now touched most of the Metal Gears.
Yeah. Put his fingers all over it.
Yeah, he's
Like
got his
touching
fingerprints
him,
all
around
over. But I guess for the sake of this little intro, do you guys mind kind of talking about like your exposure to the series before Metal Gear Mondays?
That's a good question. It was like it was one of those things that was like it was always on the fringe of my taste and like my friends' taste growing up. So like I had heard about it and like I knew people that were diehard like this is the greatest game series to ever exist and I'm gonna talk your ear off about it. None of it's gonna make sense and I won't give it context. And then you had people who were just like, yeah, it's okay. So like it was just something that like flew under the radar for me that I never engaged with because I was like, oh, it's probably like not up my alley. And then thankfully Alessio brought me into the joyous world of Metal Gear.
Metal Gear. Sorry, I promise.
Metal Gear.
I told myself I wouldn't do that within the first 15 minutes of this show, but here we are.
I promise it'll happen at least 5 more times this episode.
Correct. Isaac, how did you come into Metal Gear?
I came into it like everybody else did, you know? Don't we all remember?
to do a podcast about Metal Gear?
You did not come into this
Exactly.
shit through the Pizza Hut demo disc, sir.
Oh,
You sit down.
Pizza Hut demo disc, baby.
For
That's
me, it wasn't so I watched a lot of it being played and I always liked the aesthetics of it. I just never thought I always thought it was such one of those really long games that
You weren't wrong.
well, yeah. But like one of those games that just had so much in it and I was like, I don't think I could get into that sort of thing. And I don't think I could really see myself being in a nitty gritty with a Snake Boy. But little did I know that I would be playing all the Snake Boys. And
Every Snake Boy that ever was.
all of them.
That's
So,
awesome.
I mean, my first experience probably that I could remember is watching Alessio play through MGS3 way back when in middle school, I think. And staying late up at night watching him sneak around in the forest was kind of bizarre. I thought I was having a fever dream a lot of the time. But it... And then fast forward 10 years later or whatever, and I'm having to go through all these things with Alessio again, Who would have thought?
This time it was
like full
me that
circle.
watched you
Stuck
sneaking
in
through
some
the...
sort of time loop.
A time
Paradox.
if you will.
So
Very good.
I guess that's my Metal Gear experience.
Yeah, and if you guys want Isaac's like spot on actual like in the thick of it first reactions, check out the classic episodes of this season and check out the MGS2 and MGS3 seasons because Isaac will give you his hot takes.
And the MGS4.
Some of them are quite
and the Peace Walker
hysterical.
season.
Yeah, just all of them.
Just all the seasons.
Really, Metal Gear Mondays is a giant monolith of a podcast that's dedicated to Isaac's first reactions to these
So
games.
it was a social experiment that you guys came up with, and
Very successful.
I wish that we could just do a podcast, like we go back in time and do a podcast about Isaac's first experiences with
Oh
like
my
everything. Like Isaac's
Oh,
first.
you
Isaac's
call it
first.
Meta Gear Mondays. There we go.
Yeah, like
there
Isaac's,
we go.
Isaac's first lemon.
Oh no, Isaac! can you
Yeah,
tell us about-
Isaac's first ride of a bike with no training wheels.
so I have a story for each of those.
Guys, I feel the listener numbers dwindling
yeah,
as we talk about this. All right, let's pick it back up. Sam, what was your first experience with Metal Gear?
So my first experience, so my earliest memory of gaming, and I know that I had played other games before this, but my earliest memory was playing Metal Gear Solid's demo on the, we alluded to it before, the Pizza Hut demo disc back in the day, with my dad. My parents were divorced when I was really young, and when my dad was in the military, so he traveled a lot, but when he was stationed in Arizona with where I was, on the weekends I would go. On Friday night we had a tradition where we would get Pizza Hut and we would watch Boy Meets World, and then we would play video games, and our favorite thing to do was play this Pizza Hut demo disc. And I loved the Metal Gear Solid demo on that demo disc so much, I played it all the time, that my dad got the full game and we played it together. And that was like my first like tangible video game memory, and it's probably the reason why I'm a gamer today. So it was Metal Gear as a series was a very formative series for me and my gaming sensibilities. It's very important to me.
Very nice. And my story is similar to Sam's, except minus all of the bonding with my father. No, mine does have a fun wrinkle. So my dad watched me play Metal Gear Solid, and was off the Pizza Hut demo disc. We bought a PlayStation because I got the demo disc and was like super bummed that I couldn't do anything with it.
No.
And I like sulked around the house for months. And then my parents were like, "Here's your fucking PlayStation."
Jeez.
Bought a PlayStation for a demo disc. That's amazing.
Yeah, it was pretty great.
I love that.
So I played the shit out of the Metal Gear Solid demo over and over and over, probably like 50, 60 times or more. And I remember we used to talk about it with my friends all the time. And one of my friends was like, "Yeah, man," and it's crazy. And would talk about the whole game, and I would just have to kind of like fake, like, be like, "Oh yeah, it was crazy,"
I love it.
and then I'm like,
I remember that.
I've logged 35 hours into this demo, but but my dad would like watch me play it, and literally I do believe at one point in time he straight up said like, "Yeah, we did call those 5.56ers, and they do refer to those as pineapples like in real life." And I was like, "Oh my god." But at a certain point, for whatever reason, I guess my dad was like the record skipped or something like in his brain, and he was like, "Oh, I'm not supposed to let my young son play violent things," and so he just decided like randomly one day to like expunge all violent and like
Whoa.
seemingly like not good intentioned media for a young man like out of the house.
Oh my goodness.
So I'm talking like Final
Playing in the
Fantasy
shed.
Final Fantasy VIII got like shuttle launched out of my house.
Oh my
Like,
God.
Metal Gear Solid demo got like thrown out.
Not the demo.
Dude, like
Jeez.
all this stuff. And so I finally it's funny because all
This
the games
isn't a fun wrinkle.
yeah, sorry.
Leslie was like, and then I got emancipated.
Yeah.
Bought myself a PlayStation.
What's funny is like all the games that I bought with my like salary once I got a job and was like an adult were like literally just the games that my
Picture
dad
you're
threw
like
out.
8 years old. Like, yeah, I went back to the office and was like, hey, I need a raise in my salary so I can buy a fucking PlayStation.
Yeah.
My dad's lost his mind.
But no, so what's funny is I didn't buy Metal Gear Solid down the road. What I ended up doing was I traded with a guy that I knew in school and got his copy.
Whoa.
because for whatever reason, I guess his parents had seen like the Cyborg Ninja hallway, and they were like, "This is too violent for our son," so he had to get rid of it. So I was like, "Oh, dude, I'll trade it from you." Yeah, growing up in the Southeast, if you're a listener from the Southeast, you know what I'm talking about. And so I was trading with my friend, and I got his copy. And I remember, in order to kind of masquerade it, because like I think my dad had forgotten about it.
Yeah.
And in order to like not get in trouble, I like popped out the case and Sharpied over the cover where the M rating was. So there was like a black box, and I Sharpied it on the discs too. And so like I took it home, and my parents were like, "Oh, it's okay, whatever, video games." And I was like, "All right, cool." And that's how I snuck.
Wow.
Yeah, I almost pulled a snake and like tried to cram the whole CD case up my ass.
Oh my God.
But I didn't have nano machines to repress my digestive system, so it wouldn't have worked. But yeah,
You didn't want to awaken anything.
Oh, of course. I was a grown boy, so
That's real.
you know. But yeah, so I just wanted to give a little bit of context about who we each were. That way, while you were listening, you could pick your favorite, and then we can kind of
and listen.
forward.
Love it.
There's no right answer to that question, but it's okay if it's me.
Yeah, there's no WRIGHT answer to that question, but
Very good.
anyway, after covering all that, I just want to do like a quick overview of like what this show is, what we're doing, what you can expect. We're not really the traditional kind of like drunk cast, kind of like dudes sitting around just kind of talking. Do you know what I mean?
That's true. Yeah.
I mean, we do that, but we kind of have a little bit of a rubric or like I don't like an outline.
It's
of
gonna
how
be
we-
a quiz.
How we
Get
can
ready.
always- Yeah, if you
I don't
flip
like
to
the
page,
word rubric.
if you flip to page 37 in your workbook, but no. So what we typically do once you hit the Metal Gear Solid 3 season onward, and we've solidified our format a bit more. It's a little fast and loose, freeform jazz up until that moment. But what we do in our format is we pick a game. We kind of build a season around one game. In this case, it's Metal Gear Solid for the PlayStation. And we kind of break things up where the first episode is like covering development, history, basics, gameplay, generalities, kind of initial story setup. And then we'll do like a part one where we go pretty in depth about the story and the game. And we do it very book club, games club style. Like we talk about a chapter, and then everybody kind of gives their little book report of what happened to them, and we kind of move on. And then at the end of a season, we'll do sort of like a post, wrap up, finish it up kind of thing. Occasionally we'll have guests. There are seasons where we have guests on like every episode, but occasionally we'll do like post-season guests. And then we'll do sort of a listener response, kind of just like fun topic episode between seasons. And occasionally they'll be on the feed. You'll notice them extra ops. Extra ops are just sort of like one-off. Like we couldn't build a whole season out of this, so we're just doing like a one-off episode. I think that's my quick 2 minutes on what the fuck this show is. So hopefully you're into that. If you've listened to podcasts like Watch Out for Fireballs or Bonfireside Chat, which is actually coming back, which is crazy, as of time of recording, you will notice that the format is somewhat familiar. So we kind of lifted their format. We emulated people that we liked. Don't worry. Cole Ross has been on this show, so we kind of got approval. I think he gave us the thumbs up.
No. Cole Ross has been on the show, and Gary Butterfield called this show what was it, a fucking corker?
A certified corker.
A certified corker.
Which
You
I'm
take
not
that
quite sure
to
what that
mean-
means.
It's like
To mean what you want it to mean.
Yeah, I think it means like a champagne bottle cork popping. Like it's a real
Okay. No, it's corker. Okay. Yeah.
I'll take it.
Celebrate good times.
I'll take
Come
it.
on.
So yeah, so we're endorsed. It's fine. But yeah, so that's kind of the lay of the land, so to speak. And so we kind of.
And in case you hadn't figured it out, our podcast comes out on Mondays.
What?
Oh yeah, correct. That's a thing as well. If before we even get into this, you decide that you like this, please subscribe, please rate, please review, do all that stuff. But also, you should check us out. Metal Gear Mondays is on all the social media with that title. We're at Metal Gear Monday on Twitter, and then you should check us out on Patreon. You get cool stuff like extra podcast. It's a whole other show. But we'll talk about that at the end. Just wanted to throw that in there right now because I have to, because this is a pseudo job.
He's legally obligated to do it.
Yeah,
That's
James
just
is holding
how
a
he
gun
is.
to my head.
Yeah.
Whoa.
But yeah, so do you guys want to get into our very first thing that we're ever going to talk about, which is Metal Gear Solid?
Whoa.
No.
Oh.
Let's do it.
But yeah, so just kind of give a quick overview, and fellas, feel free to chime in as we go. I just kind of wanted to cover our basics here.
Cover 'em.
Metal Gear Solid is an action-adventure stealth game. Wow. I don't know in what world we're recording this for somebody who's never played this, so please be patient. I just want to go over some stuff. Maybe you'll find out some shit you didn't know.
Like you're immediately mocking the notes that you wrote.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah, you did this.
You reacted like somebody handed you a script. It's like
Wow.
you wrote that.
Oh no, I don't know. I have an assistant put this together. But yeah, so the PlayStation version's released September the 3rd, 1998 is when the original version of this game came out in Japan. October the 21st, 1998 was the US release for the PlayStation version. And then February 22nd, 1999, always late, Europe received this as Integral. As Metal Gear Solid Integral with a VR and special missions disc included.
This is why Brexit happened.
Absolutely.
Probably.
Yeah, late video games. Fuck it. But my brain is now fixated on the fact that Brexit's probably going to mean they're going to get games later now.
Yeah, isn't that sad? Sorry, guys.
I don't know why that is the conclusion I came to. I don't know what that has to do with economics.
Probably
but
will.
Who knows?
Yeah, imports.
Leaning into politics right off the bat.
Hey.
But the PlayStation version was developed by Konami Computer Entertainment Japan and published by Konami.
Thanks,
The
Konami.
Microsoft Windows version came out September the 24th, 2000 in the US.
Wow.
And
Y2K, baby.
Yeah. And October the 20th, 2000 in the EU. I think both of which are I think that September 24th dates roughly about a year or two before MGS2. I think it's roughly a year before MGS2.
Good
like
for
almost
them.
to the T.
They got them right back to back.
But notably, the weirdest thing about this is that, well, I guess not the weirdest, it makes sense. They took out the memory card scene that Psycho Mantis has, where he scans your memory card.
What did they replace it with?
Nothing, I guess. I think it
great,
just cut.
good.
And then they made all the VR missions and photo modes and extra options and stuff from the VR stuff available right away.
Oh, that's
Here's
cool.
something. For whatever reason, I didn't realize there was a PC version.
Yeah, there's like an actual.
Well, there you go.
Here we
So
are,
I
all these
learned
years
something.
later. Even Isaac's learning something new.
Cool.
But Microsoft Game Studios published the Windows versions, and a developer called Digital Dialect. I think they're actually based out of Europe as well, but don't quote me on that. But yeah,
What are the things those boys made?
I don't know.
Nothing.
I don't know if anybody is hand capable to search that. But let me run through the quick roster real quick, so I will speak if somebody wants to look it up. The game, as obviously, I hope. Well, I don't know. Maybe there is a subsect of people who aren't aware of like the cult of Kojima and like Hideo Kojima.
Yeah.
Do you think that there is a world in which somebody plays Metal Gear and does not know about Hideo Kojima?
Yeah, I think a bunch of people
Yeah,
probably
for
played
sure.
5 and Survive that have no idea about anything that came before that.
So these games are directed by Hideo Kojima. It's also produced by Hideo Kojima and Motoyuki Yoshioka. Tried to nail that. Designed by Hideo Kojima, programmed by Kazunobu Uehara, and the artist is Yoji Shinkawa, who we will see time and time again, and I believe is also working on Death Stranding. Is written by Hideo Kojima and Tomokazu Fukushima, and our composers that we've got listed here are Kozuyuki Maruoka, Hiroyuki Togo, Takanari Ishiyama, Lee Jong Myung, and Maki Kirioka. I think I got those. Did I get
You
those?
crushed that.
Probably.
Yeah.
A+.
So yeah, fingers crossed. Sam hit me with the probably. I think that is the most encouraging post-Japanese name reading statement I've ever received from Sam. Usually Sam's like, God, you're awful at these.
You're pretty good.
But yeah. Did anybody figure out?
Yeah, so Digital Dialect had a hell of a time. They did a game called Battle Arena.
Wait, is it Battle Arena Toshinden?
Yeah.
Oh, so
Well, they
it's
did
so
the
do ports,
PC
then.
They
the
did-
PC port. They do ports. Yeah, so they
Looks
did
like
the PC
looks like
port
they
of
did a
Toshinden.
Game Boy port too.
Oh,
Little
Looks like
Oddworld.
Oddworlds, Exodus, and Odyssey.
Well,
Yeah,
Sam coming in
great
hot.
times.
For Game Boy?
For the
For
PS1,
PS1.
and the PS3 network,
Oh, weird.
whatever. And the IHRA Motorsports Drag Racing, my game of
Woo!
choice on Friday night.
Oh, you skipped Adrenix.
Oh,
A Hunix?
Adrenix.
is it like a phoenix made of dreams? Because that
You
sounds
take on the role.
fucking awesome.
You take on the role as the ace pilot Scott Griffin, an ex-MedTech employee who joined a terrorist group after MedTech kidnapped his girlfriend.
Wait, you're playing as a terrorist?
Yeah.
Good. Cool.
Nice.
Cool.
Thanks, Digital
Cool,
Dialect.
cool. Totally not problematic. Cool.
But yeah, let's dive into development a little bit on this one. So Kojima originally planned this. This was actually kind of new information to me. So apparently Kojima and everybody. So real quick, I'm going to super plug a guy named Terry Wolf right now. The goal is, I think we're in the process of actually kind of getting him for the show for later episodes. So hopefully look forward to that.
Hell yeah, Terry.
But Terry Wolf, otherwise known as the guy who wrote a lot of the articles and pretty much everything that's on MetaGearSolid.com or .net, I think. He published a book called The Kojima Code, and The Kojima Code is pretty cheap on ebook on Amazon, so I would check that out. Or you can buy actually like physical copies. I think they're like $20 or something.
Yeah, the ebook's like $8.
Yeah, but he goes into pretty extensive detail on like Kojima's life from like childhood all the way to like I think right before Metal Gear Solid 3.
Yeah.
And so for this in particular, it's super interesting. So Kojima got in at Konami through like kind of doing odd jobs at like a really low level. Mm-hmm. And then after they kind of gave him differing levels of responsibility on like some super tiny like penguin platformer
Was he
games.
doing like coding and
so
like
he did
low
some
level?
he did some coding. I think he also did some writing here and there. But eventually they were going to scrap. They were trying to do something like Contra-esque, but on the MSX2. And the refresh rate just wouldn't allow them to do super action-y stuff.
Yeah.
And so I think they were going to scrap the project, and then Kojima mapped out this whole like stealth hide-and-seek kind of game. And they're like, sure, kid, whatever.
Wow.
And I guess it ended up kind of being received pretty well to like a small niche group.
Yeah.
But one thing led to another. He ended up doing Metal Gear 2, Solid Snake, and we did episodes on all these things. But just to give you the quick cliff notes, he slowly but surely just kind of went from this like random dude to kind of having his own little tiny team of like 5 or 6
within
people.
The studio.
Yeah, like a team within Konami.
That's crazy.
So even by the time this was going on, like
right.
he already
like
it wasn't
he had already and they were all like kind of loyal to him and like really into his ideas. And,
so like Yoji Shinkawa, who's the artist, actually did a bunch of art for Kojima during Police Knots, and I think even before that they had worked together.
It's crazy because you got to
stuff.
figure there's like, I can just imagine like the disconnect between like the visionaries like Kojima and then like the rest of Konami, who's like probably just like part business people just trying to like fumble around and figure out how to make this video game work. And then Kojima comes in and he's like, I got some fucking ideas, dog.
Well, and Konami, too, was primarily sort of like at one point in time, and I think now they're kind of going back to this, but at one point in time, they were kind of fixated on like gaming in the sense of like gambling gaming.
Right.
So like, I think early on, the roots of the company are kind of established in that.
Yeah.
But it's interesting. But anyway, so yeah, he had already kind of amassed his own little clique at this time. And Metal Gear 2 Solid Snake, which never came to the West until the subsistence release of Metal Gear Solid 3, had done really well in Japan, and he'd kind of gotten a name for himself. And Police Knots was actually supposed to be sort of his like weird director passion project, like masterpiece. Like he was like, I made this like action, like visual novel detective story, and he like went all out, like beautiful music, anime cutscenes, like crazy detective thriller story. It was kind of like based on especially the book, the Kojima Code. It was very like masturbatory. Like he just kind of was like, turn everything up to 11.
The things I love.
I'm gonna this is like Kojima's desires of the game.
This is like unfiltered Kojima.
Yeah, and for whatever reason, I guess they were pressing him to do a third Metal Gear, or maybe he decided to do it. I can't remember what the reasoning was, but the whole thing was he decided to, since they made Police Knots on the 3DO, or at least that was like a version of the game. I believe the game has since been re-released on like the PlayStation 1 in Japan and some other stuff. We still have never gotten an official release in the States.
That's
of Police
interesting.
Knots. We will eventually cover it for the show because there is an English fan patch that you can apply.
That's neat.
But anyway, so Kojima was originally planning to release this Metal Gear title in '94, or work on it in '94 for the 3DO.
Wow.
But after Police Knots released on the 3DO, the system kind of got mothballed.
Yeah. 3DO was
that would have been the
gone.
darkest timeline.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I feel yeah.
Can you imagine?
Alternate timeline where 3DO is king.
Oh God.
Real quick sidebar: was the 3DO console related to the company 3DO?
I'm not sure.
Does anybody know that?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I
'Cause I forgot that it was a console. Like, I remember the company, and then you'd mentioned that
yeah.
before we started recording. I was like, oh yeah, that was a thing for a little bit.
3DO's is really weird console. So I did buy I bought a 3DO secondhand forever ago. Held onto it for a little bit. Kind of futzed around with it. I think it had
Yeah.
Madden 94 on
yeah.
it or something. But it was this weird system where every controller had like almost like a SCSI port looking thing, and you could daisy chain like 10 controllers or something and do like a full stacked Madden game.
Yeah. Yeah, everybody's a position player.
Yeah, it was weird. It's a very weird system. But yeah, so anyway, so that happened, and then kind of at the last second, they were like, hey, let's consider this PlayStation. And I think at the time, based on what I was reading, it was still this weird experimental time where like Nintendo was king, and
Right.
anybody who'd like stepped up to Nintendo other than Sega had kind of gotten shot down.
Yeah.
So when Sony and Nintendo had their big split up, and Sony was like, we're taking our disc shit somewhere else.
See ya.
When Sony unveiled the PlayStation, I think Sony was still kind of having difficulty kind of securing more and more third-party people to kind of move
publishers
over.
are probably weary about it because it's like, what are you doing with this
Yeah.
disc thing, dog?
And so Kojima was like, no, our shit needs to be on like high-tech stuff,
Yeah.
CDs. Like this needs to be like cutting edge. Like literally his goal was to like make the greatest game ever made, but
Yeah.
also like the greatest like PlayStation game ever made.
Yeah.
And so Solid as a moniker, Metal Gear Solid. The Solid is not only because we never got Metal Gear 2 Solid Snake in America. We did get Snake's Revenge. We did an episode on that. I don't want to talk about it. It's dog shit. It's a really bad game. It's awful. Yeah, seriously, listen to that episode. I think it's like one of the worst games we've ever played.
I'm gonna need you to actually tell me how you feel.
But since we never got the actual canonical Metal Gear 2, and in Kojima's words and many other fans' words, we never really got the canonical Metal Gear either.
Oh.
Like, our version of Metal Gear on the NES doesn't even feature a fucking Metal Gear. There's no Metal Gear in the game.
That's a good point.
So it's like the name doesn't even make any sense.
Yeah.
Anyway, so they wanted to reboot the whole franchise.
Right.
Kind of, for the States. So that's why Metal Gear Solid, but also the Solid was supposed to signify this like 2D to 3D.
Yeah.
Like now everything's like a solid structure.
That's
like
pretty
a
cool.
three-dimensional thing.
Yeah. I can see the thought process. I can see the
Yeah,
logic.
it's very Japanese. It's very transfarring.
Oh man, we don't talk about transfarring.
Do you know about transfarring, James?
I don't, but I'm liking the word.
So transfarring is a Metal Gear HD collection invented word where if you had the Metal Gear Solid HD collection on your Vita and you also had it on your television,
Yeah.
you could transfer
Sure.
your saves.
This is like a
from
manufacturer's
the
typo. Like, what
PS3
happened?
to the- no, dude, they leaned into it. There's like videos about
It's just fucking remote play. That's all. It is.
it. Yeah, or just call it transfer. Like that's
Right,
we already
like
have a
it was
word for that.
transfer.
Transfarring. Anyway, I'm sorry.
Revolutionizing the language.
Somebody got to like minute 36 of this podcast and was like, "I'm out."
Yeah, somebody's like, what are these guys
They're
doing?
hating
I
on
prefer.
transfarring.
I get
I
it, though.
prefer transneering. Thank you.
Thank you,
Jesus
Sam.
Christ. But yeah, do you guys want to talk about something kind of sad?
Always.
Okay, yeah.
It's a little bit of a bummer.
Sure.
So Kojima wanted to make this like a very cinematic game, and we'll get into it. But this game's very heavy into like synthesized cinematography,
Right.
where it's like there's cameras and this is a movie. Like it feels like you're
It does
playing
feel
a movie.
like a movie.
His whole goal was to make like the most cinematic game, and then Resident Evil beat him to release.
Yeah. Which sucks to
But let's
suck.
be honest.
Yeah, let's be
I mean, it
honest.
sucks to, let's be honest. Metal Gear Solid,
Is a
as far as voice acting goes, stands the test of time.
Oh, yeah.
Way better than Resident Evil.
Resident Evil was a little sketchy when it came to the voice acting.
Was it the voice acting or the script? Because I think the
That's
script
fair.
might be the worst part of a Resident Evil.
That's fair.
I think if Resident Evil the remaster, like the remake,
Yeah.
for Resident Evil 1, if that would have beat Metal Gear Solid to market, like I would have just hung up my hat if I was Kojima and
It's
been
true.
like, I'm out.
All right, we're done. Take it home, boys.
But
Yeah,
yeah, so Sam,
like-
oh sorry, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say Resident Evil is not great in retrospect.
Yeah, it's campy to say the
Shots
least.
fired.
I mean, it's a good game, but I think the
Oh,
I was talking
take
to
it.
Alessio about a week ago about how if I got a script like that, maybe I would lean into it pretty hard, like those other people seem to.
Yeah, what do you think was going through the voice actors' minds when they were asked to read those words?
Money, money, money.
Do you think they were getting paid enough to like?
I bet they were getting paid enough for it to feel cool. You know
I
what
bet you
mean?
they
Like,
were getting paid enough for them to realize that this was a novelty.
yeah,
at the time,
They weren't getting
and
paid
they-
elsewhere, you know?
They didn't want to fuck it up.
Yeah, can you imagine being asked to voice like? I get that there were tons of PC games that probably had like voice acting before this, but like to really be like asked and paid to do a voice for like one of the first console games with voice acting.
Yeah, that's the big thing is like back then, like it probably like you weren't thinking about it like acting. So like I feel like that's part of why it sounds so stiff.
Oh, that's
is because
true.
like they don't know, like it's so new. They're like, what the fuck is this medium? What am I doing? I'm talking into a microphone alone in a booth.
Yeah,
I'm an actor.
I'm almost positive too that like, especially at the time since it was kind of unfounded, I doubt that Capcom. I almost said Konami. I doubt that Capcom like put in the resources to have like a voice director.
No, God, no.
It's probably just like
No.
a dude being like, "Sounds English.
Like, hey,
Let's
shit,
roll
will you
with
read
it."
this, read
Sounds
the script for
English.
me?
Well, and I would say too, they probably didn't have like a team localizing. Maybe they did. I mean, yeah, because I mean, Police Knots was localized, or not localized, but I think Police Knots was localized, but it was never used.
Yeah.
But like Snatcher was localized, and that had voice acting on the Sega CD a little bit. But like, yeah, I don't know. In general, like I'm sure there was a localization team, but I doubt there was like as robust of a process. It's funny that you guys talk about all that stuff along those lines. And I want to camp out here for a minute because I think one of the unsung heroes of Metal Gear Solid is Jeremy Blaustein.
Okay.
This guy's fucking great. So this guy was like the localizer for
Yeah.
Kojima for a minute. So this guy localized, I want to say the Sega CD version of Snatcher. I believe that he worked on Police Knots. And he localized this game. But after this game, he did not localize any other game in the series. And I would
What's up
argue
with that?
that we owe Jeremy Blaustein like all the thanks in the world for the fact that this script didn't go the way of Resident Evil.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you think we'd like Metal Gear Solid as much if the voice acting in the script was as stilted as that? Here's a sneaking suit. It would be better if you, Snake, the master of sneaking, took this.
Oh no.
Yeah, it is like surprising and neat that how close those games are together in the timeline, like how much better this like
It's wild.
sounds.
So allegedly, and I don't have a ton to back this up as far as like references because it's like kind of, I don't know. There's not a lot of like cited documentation of like weird internal struggles
So like
this.
anecdotal and hearsay.
Yeah, and like I think a lot of the stuff that's in Terry Wolf's book is like a lot of citations of like interview side comments
Yeah.
from like 100 different interviews. But effectively, the story goes, and maybe hopefully we're not like propagating a rumor. I would love to have Jeremy Blaustein on the show to talk about this, so I'll definitely reach out to him over Twitter. But the story goes that Jeremy Blaustein received the script from Kojima, realized that this is not a guy who knows English as like his primary language, and Jeremy kind of understood what the gist was, but decided to take some creative liberties when localizing, and kind of like rewrote a lot of the script, obviously with like the sole intention of kind of maintaining the original vision.
Right, like he wants like the spirit of it still there, but he
Yeah, but he understands that
stretched.
like this is like Google Translate
Right.
wrote this English. I need to
yeah.
step it up. And so he kind of changed it up, but the big thing wasn't just that. Apparently he also did a ton of directing with the voice actors.
Good.
Or like supervised the voice acting.
Yeah.
So much so that like apparently one of the execs at Konami would kind of like snoop on the voice acting stuff.
Really?
And Jeremy would have to like downplay how much creative license he was taking, allegedly, to like not get in trouble.
Right.
And this Scott, so the guy's name, the supervisor, his name is Scott Dolph. That name might be familiar to some people. Yeah, so rumor has it that Scott Dolph dies in Metal Gear Solid 2 as like a fuck you from Kojima.
Wow.
to this Konami employee.
Okay.
Yikes.
There's kind of a raciness to this too, because Scott Dolph in MGS2 is a black man. Apparently, Scott Dolph is not a person of color in
Yeah.
real life, but is like a hip hop enthusiast.
Oh,
And so
no.
people were thinking this is kind of like a weird racy.
Jesus
Like jab.
Christ.
Oh man.
It's
Let's
kind of
just set this up.
It's a little
a
fucked
bummer.
up.
Knock it down right.
Yeah,
at the
here we go.
beginning.
Episode
Yeah.
1.
Great
No
times.
gods, no kings. Kojima's a monster.
Yeah.
Um,
Bummer.
yeah, bummer. Dude, people do dumb shit all the time. But apparently, this led to like, well, so let's talk about this real fast. So the way that Kojima found out is that when time came for Kojima to supervise and approve of like
Yeah.
Integral, this like bonus special version of the game for Europe,
Right.
Kojima, and also for Japan. I think Integral came out in Japan, if I remember correctly. Kojima decided that to him, canonically, what would be the coolest thing to do would be to use the English voice recordings as the new official voice of the game
Sure.
for the European and for the Japanese markets.
Oh.
Because to him, I guess it felt more like Kojima's kind of an Anglophile.
I was gonna say it's like more in line with like his vision of like what he saw in movies. And
Yeah,
what he
'cause, like-
aspired for it to be.
Yeah, and clearly he's like lifting off of like John Carpenter
Right.
and like all this other stuff. And so he's like cool because let's be honest, Kojima kind of just wants to be a filmmaker.
Yeah.
But Kojima was like, I want to use the English voice acting.
Right.
And so he played through the English copy
Uh-oh.
and was like, what is this?
Yeah, he's like, bitch, I understand.
Yeah, he was like, what is this?
Yeah.
And apparently that him supervising Integral is what led to him realizing that somebody had like pulled the wool out.
Can you
from
imagine?
his
Let's
eyes.
just pause there for a second. Can you imagine you work on this great piece of art, you entrust somebody else to like make it for this huge region where you think it's going to be a hit, and then just by happenstance you go through it and you're like, I didn't. What? Where did my? Okay. Yes. Good.
Yeah, and and
Like,
that's the
what do
thing
you
is like
do?
I get it from both sides. Like I get
Totally.
I get why Kojima was pissed, but at the same time, I kind of feel like we would have ended up with like a Resident Evil
Yeah.
weird still like, and that's not to downplay David Hayter. That's not to downplay any of these amazing voice talents, but apparently like Jeremy also had a hand in like kind of picking the cast.
That's interesting.
So like I do wonder like what the hell would Metal Gear Solid 1 be without Jeremy Blastien's involvement?
It'd be Resident Evil's what it would be.
You were almost a snake sandwich.
Oh no.
Jesus. But yeah, so I don't want to camp out too much. If you guys know otherwise, like again, I'm just speaking off of what I've seen. From referencing Terry's book and from some of the other readings that I've done. If there's anything that I said that is like completely off base, like please write in and let us know.
Yeah.
But that's kind of, I guess, the narrative in my head that's like
That's
the
wild.
coolest.
Yeah.
What if
What
Big
a
Boss
betrayal.
and Zero
I was
were
just
influenced
about to
by
say that. That's exactly what I was about to say. That's crazy.
the will of the boss?
Yeah, Jeremy is Zero.
Jesus Christ.
J equals Z.
Oh no.
Oh no.
J and PT is actually Jeremy Blaustein.
Yeah. Watch my new fan theory video coming to a
Yeah.
theater near you.
Python Selkin, get on this podcast. We'll get those boys from Milan one day.
One day.
But yeah, so that's kind of the gist of like development history, I guess, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
I mean, there's plenty of other stuff to talk about, like the road to development and all that stuff. But like, I don't know. I don't want to spend much more. Does anybody have any?
Was there a point in time? I wasn't like much of a Sony person growing up. Was there like a point like was Snake like the mascot for Sony? Because I'm like trying to think of like successful like Sony only games. I feel like Snake's
I
one of
would
those
probably
characters that was
say
like only on PlayStation.
Yeah.
at the time I'd probably say it was Crash Bandicoot. Like they had all those commercials that
Was it
had-
Crash?
Yeah, Crash
Yeah.
and Spyro.
Yeah.
I fucking forgot
Yeah,
about that
Crash
little
and
bitch
Spyro,
Spyro. Wow.
Whoa.
You little purple dragon.
Oh no.
Hey,
Why you
purple
gotta be-
dragon.
Hey, we had Croc, all right.
Whoa, Croc,
Ban-
man. You
at
put some,
Banjo
when you put some Banjo-Kazooie was on the Nintendo 64.
Yeah, dog, I know I was a Nintendo boy.
Yeah. I mean, one
Croc-
the whole
you-
thing. Sorry,
Put
go
some
ahead, Sam.
respect on Croc's name, man.
Well, I think Croc had an N60. Maybe he didn't. I think it was just PlayStation and PC.
It's interesting. I think for once, I think Snake be a great mascot.
Mega Man Legends was way better on the PlayStation than it was on the N64. Putting that out there. Also, Resident Evil 2. But yeah,
Also, Resident Evil 2. You're right about that.
I will say for the record, I think PlayStation tried really hard to be like edgelord the console.
Right. That's why I would think that.
Like they're like, we have Final Fantasy VII, motherfucker. We have Metal Gear Solid. We've got, I don't know,
We're
medieval.
the mature boys.
Yeah.
We're spooky and edgy.
Oh, I guess we had Resident Evil longer too. Like I think it was PS1 only for a while. But
Yeah. How about that?
anywho's it's yeah. So I mean, did you guys have any questions or insights or comments? Sam, Isaac, James, did you guys? I don't know. That was a good question. James,
Thanks.
there was like a big television spot campaign for this game. Do you guys remember that?
For Metal Gear Solid?
Yeah.
Really?
There was like a specifically there was like a dude sitting in a chair and they were going over how he was going to be getting sent on like a suicide mission, and how like they had him training and all this stuff, but like there's no way he could have completed it, and it was
Yeah.
like a live action. Like they filmed like a live action TV spot with like
It's just crazy to me that
snippets of
like
the
they
game.
gave Kojima like this many resources to push this game.
Dude, I think it's a perfect storm. I think Kojima was like kind of this like hot new dude,
Yeah.
and then I think the PlayStation just needed talent.
Yeah. So you think like Sony probably just came in and was like, here's a boatload of money. We're going to like push this.
I would argue that like this going well is probably why he's in bed with Sony right now.
Yeah. That's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome, but like it's crazy to think that like that's how things shook out.
Yeah.
We got TV spots, we got
Yeah, that's true.
this crazy localization story. It's like, whoa.
Yeah, I do wonder. I do kind of want to go through the history. I wonder if like Sony paid for those TV spots, or if it was like Konami paying, or if
Yeah.
it was like a combination of the two.
Yeah. Yeah, and I guess like I'm kind of colored by like current times. It just seems like a little alien for Konami to like front the bill on any of that.
Yeah, I would agree.
You know what I mean?
But maybe Konami was all about it.
Maybe.
back then.
Yeah.
Who knows?
The world may never know.
Apparently, in 2001, besides Metal Gear Solid 2, they just put out a shit ton of like Bamani games.
Okay.
So like DDR and like weird drum games and stuff.
Yeah. What a weird studio.
Yeah, they're
We got Metal Gear and we got DDR.
we got Metal Gear, we got Contra, we got Castlevania, but fuck it, baby, DDR and
Yeah.
casinos.
Here's a pachinko machine for you.
I want a DDR pachinko machine.
Fuck yeah, you do.
How would that work?
You would have to dance before you could spin it.
Oh,
I don't know.
maybe the longer you dance, the longer it's spun.
Is that good though? I don't gamble, so I don't know. Like, is the spin time a good stat?
I don't
on
know.
a
I have no
slot
idea.
machine?
I have
No.
no clue.
Is that what pachinko is? Just slot machines?
Kind of.
Yeah.
It's like a slot machine mixed with Peggle.
Well, I was thinking of Peggle, like Plinko from
Yeah,
The
it's like,
Price
it's
is
like
Right.
both. Yeah. Now I'm just thinking of like Ryu from Shenmue playing those fucking
Yeah.
pink Plinko games.
Oh my god.
Anywho, we should move on. I think so. Let's talk about some basics and gameplay generalities. Yeah, so obviously, again, if you're listening to this, chances are you've played this. You're maybe pretty fucking familiar with how this game
Might be a
plays.
veteran.
But I would say for the most part, this plays like the 2D top-down games, but in 3D. It's pretty much it, right?
Yeah.
It's Metal Gear 2 Solid Snake with 3D character models and some like environmental effects and stuff
Some
like that.
environmental effects, I feel, is putting it lightly.
Yeah, you can go into first person. So if you hold triangle,
Yeah.
you can go into a first person view.
I-
Only while you hold it, though.
I learned some shit today that like I think comes up later, but like you can go into first person at certain moments and like weird shit'll happen.
Oh,
I was like
interesting.
reading some trivia on it. I think we'll cover it in later episodes, but like I was just like, whoa, that's
awesome.
spooky.
Yeah, there's I like it. This is the first thing that's coming up from gameplay mechanics. There's a ghost photo mode.
Yeah. Woo.
You can take pictures of ghosts around Shadow
Fucked
Moses
up.
Island.
How shocked were you the first time?
Did I take a picture of a ghost? Pretty shocked.
Well, that and with the environment, like in the open.
Oh, it was fucking mind blowing.
Yeah.
Sam, I was gonna ask Isaac, but Isaac saw it in 2015, so probably less jarring for him.
Ask
less
again.
shocking.
Maybe I have a different answer.
Sam, I want to ask you a quick question. So, Sam, as the other boy on the show who played this roughly around the time that it was coming out,
Yeah. In my youth.
did you? I literally said these words. I think
Mm-hmm.
never gonna get better than this. like direct,
Yes.
direct quote.
We've
Oh,
we've
no.
achieved the peak of video games. We've done it.
Like, I think I saw that helicopter leave the helipad, and I was like,
That's it,
never
boys.
gonna get better than this.
We're done here.
Well, I mean,
So,
I
yeah.
think, of course, like I was a kid, like graphics, like what the fuck were graphics when you were, in 1998, So I feel like every
Yeah, I went from
generation,
Game Boy
every
to
time,
this.
it's kind of like crazy to think like Metal Gear Solid has been around for, like, Metal Gear as a series has been around for such a long time that you can look at each entry in the series as time has gone on and be like, well, never gonna get better than this as far as like visuals go.
Yeah,
And then they just keep on getting better.
that's a good point. Well, and just to frame it in context real quick, and I don't know if anybody caught on this when we were reading out the dates, Metal Gear Solid 1 is like 20 years and 3 months old,
Yeah.
I believe. Hold on. Yep, 20
Still
years.
not
20
old
years.
enough to drink, but
Close.
old enough to smoke the cigarettes that you smuggled in your stomach.
Exactly.
Thanks, Aaron.
It's true. Old enough to flirt with a college professor.
Oh, a lot of flirt.
Damn.
Yeah, it's a
A
little
lot
gross.
of slinky dinks. You know what I mean?
Oh my God, I do not know what you mean, nor do I want to. So just to kind of frame it up in a context for everybody else, though, so this game has almost this weird, and if you look really closely, there's kind of this weird, like, dot, like, comic book look to
Yeah.
it. But they also have this weird, like, I feel like if you removed, like, the grime filter and, like, the snow filter from this game, it'd probably look really weird.
Yeah.
But it's got this, like, I would say era-defining, very PlayStation-ass, like, blocky,
Yeah.
polygonal stuff.
You really see it in the hands.
Oh, dude, like, the
Yeah.
hands and the
Oh, for
faces.
sure.
Like, it's like if Final Fantasy VII, if the dudes were made to look more... And, like, I don't mean that in a bad way. It's very distinct.
Yeah.
It is to the PlayStation era of games what pixel art is to the Super Nintendo.
Totally.
I would say.
Totally.
Like, when I think
a really good way
PlayStation,
of
this
putting
is
it.
what I'm looking at.
Yeah.
But like characters don't have eyes. Their eyes are
That's a
just
good
these
point.
like sunken in like black boxes
Yeah.
under their foreheads. And
I've
they also
never
don't
thought
move their
about that.
mouths. They nod their head when they talk.
Yeah.
Their mouths are just like a slit.
Right.
But it's like oddly really cool.
Looks
and like
great.
artistic. And
Yeah.
like it still kind of holds up.
Yeah, it's definitely like stylistic and it's of a time. It's weird to me. Like I don't understand how brains process graphics, because like at the time when you see the graphics, like later on you remember it looking a lot different than it did.
Oh
And
yeah.
then like once that, like going back now and looking at older games, it's like it looks bad,
yeah.
but brains are weird. But this specifically has such a unique style to it that it's still like fresh and nostalgic and like
the
I don't know,
atmosphere
like
is palpable.
it would look
Like,
weird if it wasn't what it looked like.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No, I get what you mean. Yeah, it's bizarre.
you listeners get it. I know you do.
There's just like I don't know how to describe it. So like so we've been talking about Metal Gear for a long time. And like longer than most people are at jobs, I feel
Longer
like.
than most people have been alive.
And I feel like if I'm being completely honest, was starting to get to the point where I was like a little burned out of talking about Metal Gear and playing Metal Gear. Towards like some of the later episodes. I mean, we've gotten fun and creative and stuff like that, but like just in general, I'm like, how the fuck are we talking this much about one game series? And going back and revisiting this original game, I was like, this is why. I
Yeah.
was like, this game's fucking awesome. Like I booted it up and like I don't know if it's just because I have such a nostalgia or whatever, but I heard the little Police Knots jingle before
Yeah.
the Konami logo, the little doot doot doo. You guys
Hey, let's
know
go.
it.
Could you
Sam,
could
do
you
it for me?
could you cue that here?
But I heard that and like all the hair on my body stood up. And then like playing it, I'm like, God damn it, this game looks and sounds so good.
Yeah, dude, I don't think it's just nostalgia because like what year was it? It's 2018 when I played it for the very first time.
Yeah.
Like it's just got a feeling to it that it's like it's something like unique and special, and it's like
Yeah, the music I think sells a
Yeah.
lot of it too.
Yeah, it's
And,
like-
the atmosphere sounds.
But also,
Very
I think
atmospheric.
that in the year like 2019 or whatever, we've had a lot of
Or
indie
whatever.
games come through that kind of mimic almost this art style. So maybe it's like we're more
Yeah.
aware and forgiving because it's like, oh, that's a really cool artistic way of doing it. But that back in the day, that was the only way they could do it. But we just trigger it in our head as like, oh, that's a really cool artistic style.
Yeah, I'm really ready for the big wave of indie games that's trying to channel PlayStation era graphics instead of pixel art. I'm ready for that weird point in time that we're inching towards.
Yeah, we're ready for Meat Hands McGee in every game. It's wild. But yeah, I mean, if you look at the other contemporaries too, like Resident Evil and stuff, Resident Evil's great, don't get me wrong, but like the original Resident Evil, like pull off the Resident Evil remake GameCube HD sunglasses for a second and let's talk about the original game.
It was a little bit of a little train wreck.
It just kind of looks like you're in a box,
You're in
like
mud.
a colored
Yeah.
box. But like compared to this, like this game's super
There's a lot going on
cinematic.
here.
It's insane.
It's like you're playing a movie.
Yeah, the soldiers are like breathing. You can see their breath in the snow.
Yeah.
You're leaving footprints.
Leaving footprints.
Like that's mind blowing for the time.
Yeah.
Like as a non PC, I played a fuck ton of PC games, but like as a non tweaky, like playing the original Thief and shit, like gamer, it was like, oh my god, this is nuts.
Yeah, how is this happening?
And just everything, like the way that the cameras worked and like the little picture-in-picture with the radar. I thought it was super cool.
It's crazy.
So, but yeah, Sam, would you mind telling us a little bit about the basics of the gameplay of this thing?
Yeah, sure. So, depending on what controller you're playing with, if you're playing with the original...
Oh my god, I forgot about that. It doesn't... You can have non-analog controls if you want.
Yeah. So, depending on which controller you're playing with, you can either control your character with the analog sticks or the D-pad, and he can move around in 3D space. You can walk him in a circle, which I feel like is another advantage of this game over Resident Evil, which is free 3D controls over tank controls, which I enjoy much more. And you can run around. If you hold down the square button, well, I guess the R2 and L2 buttons will open up your inventory on either side. The left side, the L2 button is for your items. The R2 button is for your weapons. If you have a weapon equipped, you can press square to use it, to fire it. You can also, if you hold down square and press X at the same time, you can aim your weapon and run at the same time, which is actually something I did not know until this playthrough, and use to great effect. So you can do that. You can also, if you are unarmed, attack your enemies with fists. So if you hit circle, you can do a kind of like a close quarters punch combo and knock an enemy down. And then contextually, depending on where you're standing and what you're doing, if you press square, you will either flip the enemy over and kind of like drop him on the floor, or you will if you're behind them, you will choke them out and drop them on the floor. And then another very cool option is you can click, I think it's, R1 and L1 to quick equip items. So you can unequip an item, and this is also a quick way to reload your weapons without going through the animation. You can unequip your gun and re-equip your gun, and it'll come back reloaded. And then finally,
It's a really good feeling when you do that, by the way. Like double, just like tapping it and
Oh,
having
yeah.
like the little, like it's so refreshing.
It's super cool
Sorry.
and super good. And then if you press the select button, you open your codec, which is the method you use to communicate with your support team.
And another one of the most iconic parts of this game,
Yeah.
so iconic that like Ford used it in a Ford commercial.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So,
I've seen that commercial.
And like it's reused like in Smash Brothers and
Yeah.
stuff like that. This is like, I would argue too, man, like, and maybe I'm just waxing nostalgic on this stuff for real, but like the lack of the UI being the same. So like Isaac still has yet to play 5. Spoilers from the future of this podcast. We put off playing Metal Gear Solid 5 until roughly like episode 96 or something. But I'm a little bummed out that 5, when you hold the shoulders to do the inventory, they give you like a little cross menu.
Yeah.
And I get why they did it, but like I wanted this.
Right.
You know what I mean? And like the codec, I would argue that when they went from hand-drawn to like the polygonal stuff,
Yeah.
I think I kind of prefer the hand-drawn stuff.
I agree. As somebody who played 5 before this one, I much prefer the style of the older games than the new game.
Which is weird because I know a lot of people are like, oh, I love that I
Yeah.
can listen to codec and move and do stuff in
Yeah.
5, but I just find that I don't pay attention.
Same. I do the same thing. I'm like, I missed things, and then I'm like going back and re-listening. Like, inevitably, what would end up happening is like I would just pause it anyway and just listen to it.
Yeah.
And it's like,
And I don't
just
know
felt
if,
cooler
and
this
you
way.
guys can chime in, and I'm actually curious to know how Isaac felt about this, being the person who, you know, you, James and Isaac being the people who like
Damn.
had just, well, whatever, the people who had
James
like
throwing
come
you
into
up.
it, you know, a little bit more recently, like as
Yeah.
adults.
As adults.
I remember when I was younger, the codec being like my breather. Like if I was in a if I was
Totally.
in a part where I was so stressed out that I just needed to stop for a second, I would just press select and I would just call people over and over again and talk to people.
Yeah. You
Yeah.
get really cool stuff, and I love the way that they animate these animated portraits.
They
So,
look
like,
great.
They're like these little anime style, and I believe Yoji Shinkawa did all the artwork for these. But specifically the way that like Otacons
Yeah.
articulates, and like they're so good. And I think they just do such a good job of characterizing. Like Snake does some flirting early on with like Naomi, and you just see like his little smirk come across his face.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, fuck.
Real rat bastard, that snake.
Yeah.
It does.
He'll
it
talk
does,
the pants right off you.
It does. It does immediately create the problem that you're never really sure if they can see each other or not.
Oh yeah, that's a good point too.
But it is what it is. I do like Otacon's characterization too, especially when he's screaming about people in elevators.
Yeah, he looks like he's got chops in his
Yeah,
Kodak
he
portrait,
kinda does.
which I
Yeah.
feel like never comes back again.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm a huge fan of the Kodak,
The codec's great.
and I know there's a
like,
lot of.
tune it to the right state. I like the whole UI of it.
So in the demo, I remember, because you never have to call her in the demo, but in the demo I remember I checked, guys, I'm a crazy person, I checked every single frequency,
Yeah.
like one number at
What?
a time.
No way.
What'd you find in there?
Yeah, I put a lot of time
scary.
into this fucking demo. I tried every single frequency, and I found Natasha Romanenko or Romanikov or whatever, the Russian like weapons specialist you talk
Yeah.
to. You can find her in the demo and call her, and
No
it's like
shit.
all on the demo disc.
Whoa. That's crazy.
Where Snake just kind of stumbles across it, and like she does answer, I believe.
Dude, that's crazy.
And I hope I'm not misremembering that, but I very, very vividly do remember going through
Yeah.
every single
The
station.
codec is also like Sam, to your point about it feeling like a breather, like I also felt that, but like I'm also like weirdly creeped out by the codec. And I think it made me realize like I'm kind of afraid of radios.
Well, I was kind of creeped out by it too, but I feel like this whole game has like a weird creepiness to it.
Yeah.
Did anybody pick up on that, Isaac, Sam? Do you guys feel it too? I feel like a weird, vaguely horror.
Yeah, like
Creeping
something's there's like a
tension?
creeping dread type feeling to it.
Yeah, and like until the very end where they kind of reveal all these mysteries, the fact that like you feel so behind
Yeah.
the mysteries,
Yeah.
and the fact that like you're finding people that are dead covered in maggots when you're supposed to be
it's-
saving
it's
them.
spooky.
You're like, how are they covered in maggots?
Right.
They died today, I thought.
Right.
Just like all the weirdness with the music and the atmosphere. I'm like, this kind of feels spooky,
Yeah.
you guys.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have the ghost camera, which really
Yeah, and then you fucking take a picture of a ghost and shit your pants and scream. But no, yeah. Did you guys pick up on that at all, Sam?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like the first two, like the DARPA chief and the president
Baker.
guy,
President Baker.
Baker. Yeah, thank you. Just dying out of the blue, and then they just like scream. Well, for one, the DARPA
Those
chief
screams are
coming
burned
at
into
you
my memory, by
when
the
he's
way.
dying. That's kind of freaky, because it almost reminded me of just like somebody turning into a zombie, and then starting to come at you. And that's what
This
it-
Resident Evil.
I wasn't gonna name drop. But yeah, just the way that they do it cinematically, it just kind of is a little off edge, off kilter. I don't know.
Off-putting.
Off putting.
There are two sounds involving the DARPA chief and other parts of the game that will forever be burned into my skull, and
Yeah.
that's hearing his like echo, reverbed,
Yeah.
just like
Yeah.
burned into my memory. And then the other thing is like that weird high pitched like that like it
Ugh.
does when
Mhm.
like it cuts to like the Metal Gear footage and
Yep.
Snake's like Metal Gear, and it does like that weird like high pitched whistle. Do you know what I'm talking
Yep.
about? It also does it with
Yeah.
Cyborg Ninja. He's like ninja, and like they're just like it's in the cutscene. It's crazy, like that weird. There are just sounds about this game, or
Yep.
even like the doom doom like music when you're like in the hallways, doom doom, or even whenever you like press your back against the wall. And it like, especially when you're near Otacon,
Yeah.
and you see him on your radar,
Yep.
and you press your back against the wall, and it kind of peeks over, and you see him, and it does like that little doo 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 like
Yep.
sound. Like they're just like little sounds in this game that are just like permanent.
Yeah.
It's weird.
Well,
So
there
good.
are the sounds in the game that are permanent, and then there, I think, where sound was used to the best effect in this game. And we'll obviously cover it in more detail later, but I think where sound was used to the best effect in this game was when there was no sound at all in when you're about to confront one of the bosses, Psycho Manus.
Oh yeah, and
Because
all the
right
music
before
stops.
right before you're about to go talk to him, there's no music at all, and it's one of the most unsettling feelings I think I've ever had playing a game that wasn't
Yeah,
like
it's-
outright horror.
It's crazy. Yeah, I would love to almost put on the cutscenes, like find somebody on YouTube who's like edited all the cutscenes together or whatever, or even done like a long play of the whole game or
Yeah.
something, and just listen to it.
Yeah.
Because like honestly, like I feel like it would just like make for really interesting like audio play.
I was gonna say
or
great audio
something.
play. Yeah.
Yeah, it's because it's
I
all
can see
pretty
that.
distinctive.
Yeah. I agree with that completely.
So good work to all the composers and everybody
Yeah.
who worked on the sound.
Well, yeah, it's impressive that like
Again, in 1998.
in 1998, and the fact that like you can kind of like you could take it out of its medium and it would still be a compelling like listen. You know.
Yeah, I'd love to, since there is talks of a Metal Gear movie, I would love to just see them like almost, I don't want to say shot for shot, but like just make this story.
Yeah.
Like I've got a bad feeling they're going to like simplify the story quite a bit.
Simplify it or like action it up in a way that's like very modern feeling.
Yeah. Because outside of the gameplay bits, there's not a lot of action
Right.
in this game. It's kind of like a lot
Like
of
it's
people talking.
tension and like intrigue.
Yeah.
You know.
But it goes off the rails at a certain point.
Yeah.
So, in a good way. But yeah, so that's awesome. Sam, thank you for covering the gameplay mechanics to some extent. Do we want to talk about the way that this articulates as far as like a top-down kind of thing? The only thing that I can think to describe it, because like if you've played the other Metal Gears, it's kind of like that, but there's also a lot of verticality. Because like especially even in the little helicopter area at the beginning, like there's
Yeah.
multiple levels
Yeah.
that you can go through. I feel like the best way I can think to describe this is, I guess the shorthand is like, think of any stealth section in a video game. Because this game exists, we have stealth sections in other
Yeah.
games. But imagine if I was describing this to somebody in 1997, imagine like a Zelda, like a classic Zelda game,
Okay.
like Link to the Past or something,
Right.
but in 3D, and like you're playing hide and seek with your enemies. Like, that's kind
Yeah.
of what this feels like, right?
Yeah.
Would you
Oh,
guys
yeah.
say that's a fair description?
Definitely feels that way.
Yeah.
And it's like a lot of anxiety around, am I going to get seen? And especially like even in that opening area where they're like, what's up with these footprints? It's like, what? No.
Yeah.
I'm a video game. Don't. I can't see my feet.
I'm a video game.
No.
It's such a weird like perspective too, because it's not quite isometric, but it's also not quite third person either. It's
Yeah.
just, it's very unique for like its time.
That's a good way to put it, because you can kind of like wiggle the
Totally can.
view based on the way you press your
I-
back against stuff.
When I was playing it, like I couldn't think of anything to compare like the camera angles that they use for some of those sections. Like I just don't remember playing games like that.
Yeah. in a weird way, especially when we're covering Ground Zeroes after this remaster season, in a weird way, the Camp Omega sort of like infiltration reminds me a lot of like, oh, this is what Kojima had in mind when he was doing this opening infiltration to Shadow Moses.
Totally.
But like now he can actually do it the way he wants to. But I kind of liked the limitations. Like, I don't know. Again, maybe it's nostalgia speaking, but like it's so quaint, but like so... It's almost like a good book. The best parts are the parts not described on the page, but like the blanks in between that your brain fills in. Do you know what I mean?
I like the way you put that.
Because it's like the game is an approximation of what's happening.
Right.
But like you have to fill in the gaps with your imagination.
Yeah.
And I think this game kind of straddles that cool line between like... Because the Uncanny Valley, right, is like enough of your imagination is filled in, but it doesn't live up to what you expected.
Right. Yeah.
And this kind of leaves enough...
For you to still...
For you to kind
gap.
of project.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't know, it's cool.
You're totally right. That's a really good way of putting that. And yeah, I think you do kind of lose that with the more modern games because now well, like partially because of that and partially too because like now it's like what we're used to.
Yeah, that's a good
whereas
point.
like back then and like even now like this feels like a unique piece amongst a lot of like different types of the same thing.
That's true. Yeah, there weren't other games like this, but Metal Gear Solid 5 there are plenty of third-person sneaky boy
Totally.
open world games.
Yeah. It's weird.
So, interesting. Outside of that, do you guys want to talk about the bosses and like how that articulates a little bit roughly? There's kind of, I would say there's like 4 different modes of play in this game, right? So like we talked about the codec scenes.
Right.
The other aspect I would say are cutscenes, like official proper cutscenes.
Right.
So the cutscenes are all static images talking, like we mentioned. Sam, go ahead with the cutscenes. Sorry.
Are you explaining cutscenes to people?
I am not explaining cutscenes to people. I'm trying to explain like the.
They're like static images.
No, the codec. I was talking about the
wherein
codec.
you do not control the action on the screen. In modern versions, they sometimes throw a curveball at you and make you press a button sometimes to progress the action. That's called a quick time event.
No, I wanted to distinguish between the fact that codecs are effectively just like 2 pictures of people. So it's very visual novel. The codec is a visual novel. It's like 2 animations speaking to each other on a flat surface. The cutscenes are 3D in-engine.
Yes.
That's the other thing about this game, you guys. So, like, Resident Evil's a culprit of this. Final Fantasy's a culprit of this. During this era of games, nobody did in-engine cutscenes for the whole game.
Yeah.
Like, Final Fantasy was always known for its, like, very grandiose CGI, pre-rendered cutscenes. Like, so much so that, like, dude, I'd fucking start new games just to see the opening again. Final Fantasy VIII, I'm looking at you. I watched that cutscene like 100 times.
Hell yeah.
Here's the thing. I'm not the hugest fan of Final Fantasy VIII, but I will go on record as saying Final Fantasy VIII's opening cutscene is
breathtaking. It's fantastic. I love Final Fantasy VIII, Sam. I'm going to fight you. No, I'm kidding. But no, this game's all in-engine cutscenes. Like, every bit of it.
That is crazy for the time that this came out, that they just went full in on that.
Yeah, they're like, fuck it, baby.
Yeah.
I ain't got no strings on me, Pinocchio. Let's do it. But yeah, so I think that also sets it apart from like a lot of the competition. And so those are the 2 modes. The third mode, I would say, is sort of this exploratory... You're finding items.
Sneaky sneak.
There's no HUD element that's like, you have to go here. I do love that about this game, too.
Yeah.
It's just, you have to intuit from the codec. When Colonel says, infiltrate the base, me got to get in there.
Yeah. I'm so used to having my hand held by games that like that threw me off. I was like, I don't.
But how?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where's my waypoint?
Yeah, you do get your codec where it's like, Snake, press triangle to climb ladders.
Right.
But like other than that, it's just like,
it's like
get in the building.
Figure it out, Johnny.
Yeah, which is also like that mystery was cool
Right.
as a kid.
Yeah.
But you can kind of sneak around, pick up items, figure out how to get to your objective, and try not to be seen. So that's that third mode. The fourth mode of engagement, I would say, are these bosses. And the bosses kind of articulate like mini games. How would you guys describe the bosses in this game?
I want to hear how Isaac would describe the bosses, because I think he has a very unique way of explaining.
Spot on with his descriptions. Isaac, how would you?
Am I?
Man on the street. Your mom shows up. She goes, Isaac, what are you doing? How would you describe these boss fights?
Well, all
What
right.
a weird framing device.
Let me just frame this, right? The first time playing through, I played on normal, thinking, it'll be a normal experience.
Normal means normal.
Come on, guys. I know what normal
Some might
means.
assume.
It was not. And I died a lot, and I found it at times frustrating and hard. And the boss battles, while challenging, were different enough that it threw like each boss had its own thing to it.
Flavor.
I don't know how to describe this.
Yeah, every boss almost feels like a mini game,
Yes.
right? Because I feel like none of the boss battles repeat.
No,
style
you have
wise.
like different styles and tactics for each one, and
that's
Yeah.
what I
break
liked
up
about it.
Yeah,
And then
they're
you
good
got
at breaking up the gameplay.
yeah. So
You never know what to expect, especially your first time. You're
Totally.
like, oh fuck, what is this? What are we
Yeah.
doing? What's happening?
You're like, I was
Yeah.
just sneaking, and now I'm here.
I have to fight a helicopter. A what?
Me just little man. How do I fight helicopter? That was me with the tank. I was like, excuse me, what?
Yeah,
Yeah.
you want me to do what?
Yeah.
But cool. Yeah, it's good. So you fight kind of like a motley crew. Fighting a bunch of X-Men is what it feels like.
Pretty much.
But they do a really good job in this game. I don't feel like any other game nails the like super villain-esque like entourage of enemies that you're
Yeah.
going to deal with. Because like this game, so here's the deal about this game too. And this is, I think, very of the era. The cutscene that plays before you press start to get to the main menu,
Yeah.
they're not going to show you again in the game.
Nope.
And I feel like that cutscene contextualizes a lot.
It's a pretty important cutscene.
So, like, don't skip
that
it.
Sometimes you can just
Yeah.
fucking skip and then realize they're not going to show it to you. You're going to go back and start over.
Watch it after. Yeah. Also, there's like we didn't talk about the briefing sequences. We'll kind of curtail that here at the end. But the sort of attract screen, like if this was like an arcade cabinet, like the attract screen is like them giving you the mission parameters.
Yeah.
And they talk about the guys you're going to deal with. So it's very like Dark Souls-esque, like let's build this mythology of who you're going to deal with. And it's just Colonel talking to Snake. And it's great because like Snake doesn't know any of these people either.
No, Snake's
so-
just like, what?
Yeah, so Snake's kind of like us, where he's learning for the first time as well.
Right.
And they're going through everybody, and they're just like, yeah, so we've got this, and all the names are adjective animal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like, we've got Decoy Octopus. He's the greatest at disguising himself.
We've got a Vulcan Raven, Giant, and Shaman.
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
Everybody says Shaman.
Thanks,
It's fucking-
Colonel.
yeah, perfect. Yeah, and I love how Snake just like does not skip a beat
Yeah.
with it. He's like, okay, right on. What's next? And they pull Snake out of retirement. Like as soon as we get, like,
Yeah.
dude, it's phenomenal. As soon as we get into the meat of the story,
It's going to be good.
this game's spoiler. This game's like mostly dope story with some like really fun gameplay kind of interspersed. But yeah, it's crazy. They just like introduce this like big group of enemies, and you just feel like, holy shit, I want to meet all of these people. And I remember the biggest bummer moment for me was you never get to meet Decoy Octopus.
Yeah, right?
It's like, shit, I want to meet
Where
this
is
guy.
he?
I
mean,
guess you do technically, but
and
it's
he
not
dies.
the same.
But it's like I wanted to find him.
Yeah.
You want to know? So you know what this always reminded me of, and I actually don't think that this is something that we have mentioned before on like future episodes or even in our original classic version of this game. It kind of reminds me of like a Batman Rogues Gallery.
Oh, 100%.
That they're
Definitely.
giving
like-
to you like right up front. It's
Yeah.
like, okay, this is the Joker and this is Catwoman and this is Poison Ivy.
Yep. You're fighting some supervillains today, baby.
Oh yeah, here's Clayface. He's the best villain in this entire universe. Yeah, it's awesome.
I can't.
Like
are
I
you being
love it.
disingenuous right now?
No, I legit.
Yeah, he loves
I
Okay,
love
because I love
Clayface.
Clayface.
Oh yeah, dude, Clayface for president 2020.
Yeah.
I feel like we're one bad day away from somebody pushing the president into like a vat of that fluid and
Oh,
just making
absolutely.
Clayface.
We're close.
Sorry, I had to have a moment of realization where I was like, I have to be
Yeah.
careful what
We're-
words I put into the
we're
world
right there.
we're
We're on
one
the-
bad
we're on the
day
brink.
away.
Or good day, depending on how you look at it. You know
That's
what
true. Sometimes he looks like he may already be Clayface. But
Oh
anyway,
God.
I mean? Get him.
it's great. It's wonderful. You kind of going into this game, they do this really cool thing by establishing that. I then in my mind have this checklist of like dope shit that I know I'm going to run into. And then when it comes back in, I'm like, oh my God, I remember you're the guy. Like you're the G.I. Joe that I'm fighting. This is great. Let's do it. They do feel
You're the
like G.I.
X-Man.
Joes. They're like,
I
you're
didn't
the
know you were a
Silver Man.
helicopter.
Yeah, you're a helicopter. They don't give you the helicopter.
No, they don't.
Yeah, can you imagine? They're like, and Whirly Bird, the sentient helicopter.
Tyrant copter. Giant and helicopter.
It's like, I'm sorry, what?
Snake's
You
like,
heard me.
fuck, they've got a helicopter.
God damn it. We've got a guy with a fucking minigun, and you have to fight a literal helicopter. What the fuck?
Yeah.
Part of the job.
Yep.
That's why
It's
I went
all
to
just
retirement the first time.
all just another day on the job. But yeah, so the ultimate goal is for Snake to render useless the Metal Gear, of which they are unaware of exists until midway through the game.
Yeah.
The plot beats are almost kind of like, honestly, like, let's talk like Metal Gear 2, and Metal Gear Solid, and Metal Gear Solid 2 are all very like Zelda, Metroid-esque formula.
Yeah.
Where it's like these games all have a formula. You're going to deal with these bosses. You're going to do this thing. There's going to be this double cross. And then you're going to fight a big-ass robot called Metal Gear, and then end credits.
Yep.
Metal Gear.
But what's so good is that like Kojima was aware of this formula, leaned into it hard for this game, all for the fucking ultimate payoff that is the game that comes right after this, where they're like, hey, you know that formula? Fuck off.
Yep.
Like, and I want, I guess you could say Breath of the Wild's kind of this. I want that like MGS2 moment for Zelda.
Yeah.
Where it's like, oh, you were expecting this, were you? Haha. Like, but yeah, anyway, this is great. This game's great. Sets the stage for some phenomenal games to come after. Do you guys feel like we've covered everything? Is there anything that we're missing in this generalities kind of overview? Remaster?
Do we want to go into the briefing since it's on the main menu? First,
Oh,
or
that's
do we
right.
wanna
Yeah. I wanted to talk about that, I guess. I guess we could probably talk about the VR missions very lightly. There's not a lot on disc. Yeah, so we talked about VR missions a little bit with the Integral and some of the other stuff, and there's like a whole separate side game that came out in the United States. But they're sort of these like virtual playground testing grounds that are available from the pause screen. So if you go into like options, you go to VR missions, and there's sort of this like, hey, here's 10 maps, don't be seen.
Yeah.
Hey, here's 10 maps, use your pistol to neutralize all the enemies. And they're kind of simple.
Yeah.
And the VR missions disc is just like 300 of those. They get weirder and weirder and weirder and weirder. And there's even like a murder mystery clue.
What the fuck?
Set of 10 that are very. It's like, yeah, discover who made the murder, and you're like, what?
Oh, that's the best.
It's phenomenal.
That's crazy.
There's also one where you fight a Shadow Moses soldier that is the size of a Godzilla.
Love that.
It's wonderful.
That's a Genola.
Yeah.
Genola.
But yeah, so there's those VR missions for you to just kind of test your gameplay.
Test your might.
Yeah, test your might. But yeah, then there's also these briefing sections. Sam, do you want to tell us a little bit about this?
Yeah, so we kind of touched on it when you turn the game on before you get to the main menu. You see a scene where our main character, who at this stage, if you've played it for the first time, you're not sure who this man is, but he's in the submarine driving towards base, and then you pop out of the submarine and swim towards this base, and they kind of explain the mission briefly, and explain like who you're dealing with, and it's kind of the lead up to the game. It's like the prelude. If before you start the game you do some digging around the menu, you come across this thing called briefing, where you can actually watch the briefing that Snake goes through before the mission in full. It's divided up into sections, and watching a particular section will unlock another section of the briefing that you can watch until you watch the whole thing. And it's a great way to, they do a great job of setting up the world just from the off, but it's a really great way to kind of optionally give yourself some more context.
And it's awesome content too. Like,
Yeah.
I think the one thing that I would add to this, which awesome description, Sam, I thought you did a rockstar job. I think
Thank you.
the one thing that I would add to that is that like the briefing tapes are all hand drawn. It's like, imagine a Kodak frame, but it's like the whole TV.
Yeah.
And so it's like this hand drawn VHS effect. Like the camera's just on Snake, who's like fully nude,
Right.
like resting on a bed, and you kind of see shapes of people moving across the camera from time to time, and you hear people like entering and leaving the room.
Right.
It's like a radio drama with like minimal cool ass animation.
Yeah. It's like,
It's awesome.
yeah, there's like so much, there's so much like vision behind it. It's just like, why is this here? Like, how is this here?
Yeah,
You know,
it's
like-
definitely like the briefing scene from fucking Escape from New York.
Yeah. No, it's,
Is
it's
what
totally
it's like.
that.
It's just that,
Yeah.
but it's so cool and really well
It's
done.
super neat.
So,
And impressive, again, for the time. Like,
yeah, good on you, Kojima, for
Isaac,
having a fucking vision.
did you ever wind up watching the first time you played or this time? Did you watch the extended briefing in the menu at all?
No.
Did you know
Isaac,
it was there?
Isaac on the spot.
I didn't actually, and I never really actually went into the briefings. I don't think.
Well, and
If you have like an extra
to
20
be-
minutes on like a
Yeah.
play session, I'd recommend going into the menu and watching them because it's actually really cool to like watch and
Yeah.
listen to.
yeah, and I mean, shit, I'll probably dive back in and refresh myself on those before the next time we record. To be fair, in all honesty, modern gamers are probably very easily going to look past that shit because it kind of feels
True.
like my original thought the first time I ever saw it was I thought it was going to be like tutorial stuff.
yeah.
And it was just going to be like a little video showing you like how to do tutorial stuff. I
Right.
didn't realize it was like in universe, like contextual, like lore dumps.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's like a sign that, like, Kojima clearly had, like, more he wanted to say.
Yeah. I always find it as a good sign. To
Yeah.
me, it's a really good sign when a developer's so fucking confident in what they're doing
Yep.
that like they're okay with like hiding dope shit.
Totally.
Because they're just like, whatever, you'll see it if you want to see it. If not, whatever.
Yeah.
And not even like hiding dope shit, but hiding dope shit when you don't really need it to understand what's going on.
Yeah. Can you imagine a
Like,
world
it's
in which
just-
like the briefing had core information that was like, and people are just like, this is confusing and dumb. What is this?
Yeah. It's just like extra stuff if you like want it.
If you want, yeah. Apparently, I didn't
I-
want it.
You didn't want it
Didn't
hard,
want it hard
enough.
enough.
You
The
gotta
first time
want
I
it.
think the first time I ever discovered the briefings, I discovered them mid playthrough of the main game. I think I'd gotten like midway through the game and had been like kind of bouncing through the menu looking for shit.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, because I remember what it was. They talk about Gray Fox, I think, in the game. So when you encounter Cyborg Ninja, he's like Gray Fox. And I'm like, who the fuck is Gray? Like, why are you talking like I'm supposed to know who this is? And then I went into the briefings, and there's like a whole section where like I think him and Naomi talk about
Yeah.
her brother, I think, or no, she doesn't reveal it as her brother yet, but they talk about his ex, like partner or whatever, like ex compatriot, Gray Fox, or at least they reference like the fist fight in the minefield, I think.
Right.
And I just remember being like, "Holy shit, what?
I know,
This
like,
is
what is
crazy.
this?
There's so much stuff here." But I guess, especially for Americans, we didn't realize that there was like two prior
Other games.
Yeah.
It's just like a sequel.
Yeah, I never, dude. I'm gonna be honest with you guys. I didn't realize this game was a sequel probably until like MGS3 came
Yeah.
out.
I can see that.
Yeah, I literally did not know that there was a Metal Gear and a Metal Gear 2
Yeah.
until like MGS3 was on the horizon. I think. So yeah, it's wild. This is a great game. There's a lot of depth. Cool. Are you guys down to dive into just sort of wrap up thoughts for the episode then?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do it.
Nice. So yeah, thank you guys for getting through this first episode. Hopefully you enjoyed yourself. Roughly, if you look at the classic and you look at the remaster, you'll probably notice that the classic episodes, like the first 4, are about like an hour. And I think even with the MGS2 stuff, I think we tried to keep it at around about an hour. What ended up happening as we got into the MGS3 stuff was we realized that both the listeners and us enjoyed kind of talking a little bit longer form, and so this like hour and 30 is roughly about the average per episode. I think we do have episodes that are like 2 hours and 2 hours plus. We try to keep them between like 90 and 120 minutes. Sorry, Sam.
Which people seem to like for some reason.
Yeah, and we like them too, but
Yes.
it just depends on how we. Like I never want to break it up and be like, well, we're going to do an hour and then a quick little 30-minute one. You know what I mean? Like, that's dumb. So we just say what we got to say and move on with it. But yeah, so this was covering generalities from Metal Gear Solid 1. Starting on the next episode, we are going to be diving into the first half of the main game. I'm still not 100% on where we're going to organically end up. Part of me is thinking we are going to play until the point when Snake gets captured. But yeah, I think that might be better than switching discs, because that disc 1 switch happens pretty late in the game.
Yeah.
So we'll probably do it to that point. So when Snake gets captured, which, like, spoilers for a 20-year-old game, Snake does get captured.
Oh, shit.
Canonically
They got him.
at one point. But yeah, so we're going to play till that point. So if you guys want to play along with the show, just play until that point for the next episode. And then after that, we'll be covering from the point of Snake's escape until the end of the game. And then on the 4th episode, we're going to be doing wrap-up thoughts, talking with our good friend Alice Chang about the game, kind of talking about extra stuff, side content, unlockables, stuff like that. And that's typically the format that we take. We'll do like a generalities, we'll do a multi-parter, and then the last part will typically be like sort of secrets and side stuff.
Yeah.
And did you know kind of stuff. And then the last
Did
part...
you know?
The last part will be episode 5, will be a listener response episode. We haven't revealed this just yet. If you are a longtime listener who is listening to these as they are 91 through 96, episode 97 is going to be, I believe it's 97 or 96, is going to be us playing through the Twin Snakes properly and talking about it properly. So midway through the whole run of the show, we did a quick 100 Facebook likes special quick bonus episode on Twin Snakes.
Yeah.
We're gonna give it its formal, proper treatment. So yeah, Twin Snakes is the GameCube remake of Metal Gear Solid 1. So that's exciting.
Kind of like how we're doing a GameCube remake of our original season.
Yeah, this is the GameCube remake of the original season.
This is our Twin Snakes.
Yes. We have become the Twin Snakes. But yeah, I really quickly just wanted to say, if you like what we're doing and you dig the cause, consider supporting us for as little as $2 a month on Patreon. You can get episodes as early as I can edit them, and you will also get a whole new podcast. Is the Metal Gear Mondays Patron Club, kind of like this show, except we talk about, we alternate between topics and games, and we'll give an hour-and-a-half long episode talking about a game that's not Metal Gear. I think we've done episodes on Last of Us. We did an episode on God of War, the 2018 game. We've done episodes on weird shit like Murdered Soul Suspect. But we also do topics like games that we grew up with, or handheld games, or I think we did fighting games for one, and gamer budget discussion. That was kind of cool. But yeah, so consider that at $5 plus.
Those episodes are way less formal.
Yeah, and a lot of fun, just fuck around episodes, and they're fun. But yeah, for $5 up and $10 up, there's additional tiers. But that $2 up one, I think minimum, is worth a look. Outside of that, if you guys want to follow us, you can go to Twitter. We are at Metal Gear Monday. We're also on Facebook, Metal Gear Mondays. We're on Instagram. Sam does these awesome episode cut-ups. Kind of going through. I'm trying to think of the best way to frame it. It's
clips.
fun,
it's like a clip.
fun
it's
moments.
clips.
Yeah, it's like a clip show. It's people do highlight reels for Twitch or something, but it's a podcast and it's fun. They're great. But we're on Instagram, and you can also I think you can also check us out. It's a bit.ly/MGM store if you want to buy some cool shit that Sam has made. And the last but not least, we are on. We have an Amazon affiliate link. It's bit.ly/justabox. If you want to buy any of these games on Amazon for no extra money on your end, we get a little kickback. So thank you for that. If you guys listen on iTunes, please consider giving us a rating and a review. Specifically, those ratings help get the show seen more. So, yeah, that's pretty much it. I am motor mouthing like a motherfucker, which should be a tongue twister. Motor mouthing like a motherfucker. But I really quickly want to give everybody the floor to kind of plug themselves and where you can find them individually. So, James, where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter at James Reichmuth. You can find me at jamesreichmuth.com.
Very nice. What kind of stuff do you talk about? Metal Gear stuff? What are you talking about?
I tell a lot of jokes. I test out comedy on there sometimes. Mostly that. Some thoughts, some musings. Try to keep it fun.
Nice. Sam, where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Sanjul. That's SANJUUL. I tweet about Metal Gear sometimes. I make jokes on there sometimes. Sometimes I talk about what it's like to live with depression and anxiety, because that's something that people don't talk about enough. And sometimes I blend those two things together, and it's poignant.
And Sam just described himself as a human, I think, as well.
Yeah.
Very nice. Yeah, Sam's a good Twitter follow, and so is James. You guys are good. Isaac, I'm going to, on the record, say Isaac's an awful Twitter follow.
Hey.
Isaac, tell us about your Twitter account.
I don't know if I want to anymore.
Isaac doesn't use it. Isaac,
So-
get back on there, man.
Hop on that.
Here, hold on. I want to see if I can hold Isaac to this. 2019, new year, new
No.
Isaac.
I can already tell you
Can
now.
I hold you to, Isaac Lim, and I'll text you to remind you, can I hold you to one tweet a week?
A week.
Hashtag one tweet a week.
You
You can say whatever you want to say.
Yeah, let's do it. We'll see how long it takes.
Ooh, on the record.
On the record.
Are you fucking serious?
I got you. Isaac.
Who
I'll
knows?
remind you.
Maybe my
I'm going to set up
fingers
like
crossed.
daily reminders.
Fuck
for me.
yeah, you are.
All right, one tweet a week.
Isaac, here's what you do.
Oh,
here's
God.
what you do. I'm going to help you out. That way you can spend like 10 minutes one day and just bust it out. Download the Buffer app and just write all 52 of your tweets and schedule them, and then you're done. You spend 10 minutes writing out your tweets, scheduling them, and then you're done.
Oh my
for the
gosh, that's genius.
Wow, Sam. Way to enable him
Thanks, Sam.
instantly.
Look,
this is why we can't have nice things.
It's either this or nothing.
Look, guys.
Listeners, do you see do you see my sons? Do you see what I have to deal with
We're
every
just
day?
going to start ghostwriting Isaac's tweets. We're all going to contribute to Isaac's Twitter.
Great. Yeah, Patreon. I'm going to add a new tier if you want authorship on an Isaac tweet. No, that's a joke. Yeah.
Did we mention what his actual Twitter handle was, or did
Isaac, would you like the honors?
Sure thing. If you want to follow me or tweet at me, my Twitter handle is at doesn'thaveatwit.com.
Yeah, and if you follow the original episodes, I think you can track the trajectory of the birth of that Twitter account.
Oh yeah.
Are we just
doesn't have a
uploading our
twit.com.
consciousness to the internet? I feel like that's what's happening.
Yeah, this is
I
like
think so.
a true living time capsule. Like you'll be able to track your growth as a person.
It's true.
By going
well,
back
like
in.
this is what the Living Tribunal has like been leading us towards this whole time is
Holy shit, Sam's going off the deep end.
They can recreate our bodies, but they can't recreate our minds. So
What the fuck
they
are
have to
you
use
talking
our
about?
tweets and our Facebook posts and our social media posts to really build a construct. of what our
Amen.
minds are like, so that they can
Living
fill our
Tribunal.
brains. They can fill our brains with like our actual thoughts, and that way they have a real lifelike model of us for when they inevitably consume the world.
Yep,
The lolly lulelo.
sounds right.
Sam, I love you. That was amazing. Oh man, the king of vamping himself. Sam Wright. That was phenomenal. Very nice. Well, yeah, it's been fantastic, you guys. I really enjoyed this remaster. I think I think we've done our past selves justice, and maybe we have not.
Me especially.
I think we've done our past selves justice, and hopefully not obstructed our future selves or generated problems for down the road. So, good on us. Good on the listeners. Thank you guys for listening.
Amen.
And before we go, I've got one really quick thing to say.
Go ahead. Thanks, Sam.
That's all I got to say about that.
Thanks, Sam. That was a funny reference to the loud keyboard sounds that appear in MGM issue number 1 from November or September of 2015. Thank you.
You're welcome.
We can't go into the future without leaving our past friends behind. Got to bring that keyboard with us. Oh no, and the dog.
Oh my God.
Thank you, Sam. We recorded under duress, I think.
We've come a long way.
Yeah. We have audio foam on the walls now, and
true.
and sound dampening
see
curtains. This is the future. If only we would have known. But yeah, it's good. We need to do a classic sign off. I hope there is a single listener left to hear this happen by the end of this. Yeah, Sam. I wish that I would have gone back and made note of what the exact way that it came out was. Do you remember how we got to the line that we have to say to end the show?
Originally?
I don't.
Yeah,
I don't want to like. Here's the thing.
Here's
the thing. We could get there like we did the original time, but I don't want to put us in a box. You know what I'm saying? So
gotcha.
I think that we should just leave them with a little bit of light knowledge. You know?
Yeah, that's true. It's just a thought.
The living tribunal wills it.
It's just, I'm going to just keep saying this until it lands. Dude, just a thought. That's our new sign off. It's just a thought. She just
like
a thought.
THOT. Oh, jeez.
No, but Sam, you're right. It was good. You skirted around it a little bit, but I think we should just leave it at that box comment. It's just a box, right?
Yep.
Just a box.